All right, team. Welcome back to Beneath the Noise podcast. We're on episode 4. Can you believe it?
Crazy.
What a day. We're working through our emotions on this first series. So we've done fear, we've done sadness, and today we're going to be working on anger. Will, talk to me about anger. When was the last time you felt angry?
I try and keep my curve of anger pretty, centered. I don't feel any extreme anger. Maybe, or a particular one comes to mind. Me and my brother are having an argument.
Okay.
And I think I decided to, have my own justice system, as brothers do. And I decided to hide his phone, as brothers do. We're not as young as you'd want us to be in this story.
Okay.
And so I hid his phone, and he couldn't find it. I think it was his phone, or it was something that he wanted. Might have been like a PS4 controller or something, something that would inconvenience him, but, didn't really matter in the grand scheme of the world. And he, as his justice to that, he took one of my electric guitars, got some scissors and cut the guitar strings, and in doing so dented the fretboard, causing more damage on the guitar than what the guitar was worth. And that was annoying because I went to Dad at the time, because this is the other thing, so I couldn't really stop him because my dad was on like an international business meeting on a work call, and you don't interrupt those, because God knows what the ramifications of that would be. So I couldn't really I was powerless, and he did it. And then Dad's way of sorting that situation out was to do absolutely nothing at all.
So your anger came from an injustice. It felt like you were not being seen. Well, actually, was it injustice because he was responding to what you done to him?
Yeah, but I wasn't the instigator. There was something that happened previously that led me to do that. I just can't remember what that was.
Okay.
It was like my reaction was probably out of proportion. But the reality is he asked for his phone, I gave him his phone back. After he got his phone back and the thing was done, he then took the guitar.
So how did that anger manifest? How did you feel that? What happened because of the anger?
I didn't speak to him for 3 months.
3 months is a long time to not speak to your brother.
Yeah, but it's just like we're cool now. I was helping him out with his new business the other day. But me and him have always butted heads on things. Ever since Mum and Dad split up, we've always been like.
Do you find it's the people that you know the closest are the ones that you can bump heads with the most? Because they're the ones that know us inside and out. They're the ones that understand what we like, what we don't.
They have the most weaponry.
Exactly. Yeah, they have the most ability. And because we care the most as well. So do you think anger needs care to exist, or can anger be its own emotion in and amongst itself? Because for me, I find that I try and keep a level head. Anger is not really an emotion I've ever really expressed. I actually find it very difficult to. I'm not saying that's a positive either. But for me, expressing anger or the lack of expressing anger can lead to resentment. So I'm curious whether you find that within people that you care about, or whether that can be expressed largely to people outside of that.
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because you get so many people that are angry at the government, but don't actually know what it means to be angry at the government, or because you can't argue with the feeling. Like if you're genuinely feeling angry towards something, like you can't argue that feeling because that is how you're feeling, and you're not in control of how you feel. I think we've said before, like you can't choose what you like, because otherwise you choose to like it on the radio. It's like you can't choose to feel anger, otherwise you choose to either always be angry towards a certain person if you're really holding a grudge, or you just never let anything go. It's like you can't help how you feel, and I think that actually helps humans stay regulated. But whether or not you have to care about something to feel anger, I would say you probably do, because anger is usually spawned out of feeling hard done by, or there being an injustice.
Because for anger to exist, you have to care about the thing that has caused you pain. Because anger is maybe in a response, as opposed to, I didn't wake up angry. Something has happened that's made me feel anger.
Yeah.
and naturally that degree of anger might change based on how much you care about the thing. For instance, you're arguing with your brother. If he broke your guitar, you'd probably be furious. But if he popped a tire on your car, it'd be a bit like, it's a bit annoying because we don't really care about our cars, you know? So, yeah, I'm just curious whether it's something we actually care about. So, do you struggle to express anger?
It convincingly, yeah. I'm very good at like being angry, but with my facial expressions and bodily actions expressing my anger, it's never convincing because I'm always such a happy chap most of the time. So nobody can believe that I really feel like.
So people don't take you seriously?
Yeah, which usually makes the problem worse.
I was going to say, how does that feel?
It's like I just can't win in that situation, so then I just lock myself away. It's like I'll cool down, and I'll just I'll build a YouTube channel that's massive, and then I'll call up their boss, say they're a paedophile, and then they'll ruin their life. But I'll do it 10 years later.
Okay.
That's my type of anger.
Your response to anger is to remove yourself from the scenario, from the thing or the person that's caused you anger.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I have over everyone is patience to do with long-term goals. So if I feel like somebody's wronged me enough and I still care about it 10 years later, there's nothing saying that I can't go back and still hurt them, in my mind. But that's probably the views of a psychopath.
Well, I think there's a saying that's commonly attested to the Buddha, which is anger is much like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Like the same with holding a hot pan. I'm holding on to that pan that's hurting me, but it's not hurting them.
Yeah.
Do you think there'd be other scenarios in your life where, or maybe you just think you'd be a different person if some of those fuels of anger were not there?
I think you build up a tolerance with emotions towards things. For example, people who lose their legs, for example, very quickly get back to baseline happiness. It takes roughly 6 months if you lose your legs. So if I didn't have those spouts of anger, and like obviously it's my story, so I made it sound like I was angry in that situation, and I was, but other people in the world that have been tested and tested and tested and made even more angry and are maybe predisposed to more anger anyway, that they feel more anger and have more extreme scenarios, yes, but to them it probably doesn't feel that bad. It probably feels the same as what level of anger I reached, and what I thought was really bad, somebody else might think, oh, that's like way out of the realms of my anger. There's like scale to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to...
So you're suggesting that everyone expresses anger or feels anger to different levels?
I think so. I think you'd just build up a tolerance. Like if somebody was... Alex Hormozy's got the greatest thing of like, if this horrible thing was to happen to you 1,000 days in a row, how much would you care on the 1,000th day? You expect it. That's normal. And his example was a misprint on a book. Like if you're writing a book and it comes back and it's misprinted, that is like bad because that means that those copies, that however many have been made, can't get sold. Then again, and you might be angry about that. But then again, how would you feel if that happened every single time you made a book? It's just part of the process. It's what happens. So if I can feel that way on the 1,000th time, why can't I feel that way on the first time?
So we've spoken a lot about growth in the past, and I think a lot of our emotions that we're going to speak about or have spoken about lead back to growth. Do you think anger is a process towards growth, or is it a tool, or is it something that we simply feel and that's the end of it?
I think it obviously depends on the different people. For me, it can fuel putting me in the right headspace to just sit down and work, weirdly. Because work is always work is everything to me.
Yeah.
It's how I escape from life, it's how I have fun, it's how I hang out with my friends now. It's I try and get everything to do with work because it's the most productive use of my time. So, but I think for somebody else, it might make them less productive because they're so consumed they can't focus on anything. Whereas for me, it puts me. So I think I'm probably better off for feeling anger because it allows me to go into like deep ADHD focus mode on whatever I'm doing.
So you channel anger.
Yeah, yeah, that's the way to put it.
Do you think everyone can channel anger?
I think you've got to have a sense of perspective on you and your own life before you can channel anything. So I think if you can really identify, okay, I'm feeling angry right now. I know I can't make this feeling go away by outthinking it. But if I can feel this and use this energy, because all emotions are stored up energy, really. It's like, I'm feeling super sad right now, I've got to let it out. It's I'm feeling super happy right now, you just want to tell the world, you want to push it all out. I'm feeling, super stressed right now, I just got to get the stress out of me. And if you can, whenever you're feeling like you've got to release an emotion, if you can release it through a body of work, that's got to be the number one way to release it. I think even talking to a friend at that point, for me, would be secondary, because I could either put all this energy into reliving the problem with a friend, or I could put all of this energy into making something, feel better after it, and I've still got a product at the end of it.
That's you and how you work.
Yeah.
So there's definitely other people that will channel their anger or their emotions through a friend, through therapy.
Yeah, tell me about tell me about you.
Me.
How do you process anger? Answer all those questions you just asked me.
How do I process anger? Well, like I think I said at the beginning of the podcast, I've had a very difficult, complex relationship with anger. And it's actually something I am working through in therapy, which has been a really insightful view into my life, because I perceived for a very long time that anger is bad. Categorically, anger is bad. If I'm feeling anger or you're feeling anger towards me, something is wrong and I need to avoid it. I need to do anything possible to escape it. For me, anger was terrifying. Terrifying to both feel and be on the other end of. So for me, as an adult, trying to understand anger is very difficult, because I've now got to understand that anger is a tool. Anger isn't necessarily bad. Anger can let us know that someone's crossed a boundary. We feel that there's something that's wrong. Someone's wronged us. Anger is a complex emotion for me. And I think it's taken a lot of work to even just understand that. For me, when I feel angry, or I used to, avoid. There was no creative outlet, there was no healing, there was no art, there was no productivity, it was avoidance. I would shut down. I'm like, if I'm angry, I'm not feeling that. And I'm not feeling that. I'd remove myself, I would physically shut down. Yeah, like anger for me is very difficult.
Interesting. And you said you didn't like being, obviously, as most people don't, being on the receiving end of anger. Are there any experiences that come to mind that you wouldn't mind sharing to do with that come to mind? There might not be.
Not immediately. However, I know that there was maybe anger or perceived anger when I was growing up. I think my brother had a lot to work through. I think, bless him, he's done a lot of work on it now as he's an adult, and I admire him for it. But I think there was just maybe a lot of anger in the household as I was growing up. I might be wrong, but in my memory.
But that's your perception of it, so yeah, it was there.
So for me, it felt very unsafe.
Right.
Like for me, it was an unsafe emotion.
And did that then destabilize you to the point where you, I don't know, harbored all this anger inside yourself, and that's why you had to stuff it down because it just felt too much? Or you felt if you'd be adding to the problem if you expressed your anger?
I think it was, I didn't want to express anger because I saw the outcome of expressed anger. I felt and saw the hurt. I felt and saw the damage that came from anger. I think I was only ever introduced to anger in a negative sense.
Right.
I was never introduced to positive anger.
Give me an example of positive anger.
Where, I'm still learning, but say you're having a discussion with your partner and they've done something that has upset you. If that has upset you and you do not share it, you are going to harbor resentment. And unspoken expectations lead to premeditated resentments. So if you do not share in that moment that has upset you, that has angered you, you are angry, but it's not I'm going to fly off the handle, I'm going to break stuff, I'm going to yell at you. It's hey, I'm a little bit annoyed at that, and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's okay that I'm annoyed, and you might get annoyed that I'm annoyed, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think one thing I never learned or was scared to learn, I think it's had an impact in my relationships, personally, professionally, relationship-wise as well, romantically, is that friction is good. You know, having disagreements is good.
Thoughts just come to my mind.
Tell me.
You are the flint, she is the steel. You must butt heads to create a spark sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you don't ever do that, then you're both just useless individuals. Whereas if you come together, you can make a fire.
It's very true. Sometimes
that's off the top.
I'm
that's
impressed.
You know, there won't be many gems, but there's one.
You've done well. Yeah, so I think that's something I always ran away from was anger, just in its most broad sense. Thank you. I dropped my pen. Yeah. So that was me. That was my insight into anger, and I'm sure we'll delve in more as time goes on. But one thing I touched on, I'm curious: anger and a boundary. If someone crosses a boundary, is anger justified?
It depends on how deep that boundary goes. Like, for example, in the situation with my brother, guitar is like my life.
Yep.
So that I would say that boundary is a big one to cross. If it was hiding one of my pillows on a double bed when I'm single,
yeah,
I'm not going to get angry. Like, it might bug me, but it's not going to drive me to proper anger. Whereas if it's something that's my passion, it's like, that's all I talked. All I talked about was music and business. What the two things you don't want to mess with me on is music and business. What did he decide to mess with me on? Music that I was trying to turn into my business. It's like, he proper went for it because he knew where to push. He knew the button. He knew where it was. And so, yeah, I think, going back to do you have to care? I think you do have to care to feel proper anger. You must do.
So it's our values that we will get angry about, we'll get defensive over, because our values are our identity. And our values are malleable, they're adjustable. We can change them. One of the benefits of being a human is we can adjust who we are. Some of us. But if someone crosses a value, something we hold dear, that's where you think a boundary is. That is where the anger would come from.
I think so. I think that's a good way to frame it.
So you've mentioned there music and business. What boundary do you think someone would need to cross to anger you? Both general population, maybe Sophie, maybe myself. Is there something you would think that would go, you know what? That would really frustrate me.
I think the only person who can cause me anger now is Soph. And that is because I've had so much time, luckily, without needing to feel extreme anger in my life, that I've realised nothing matters to me other than Soph and YouTube. And then there's everything else. Sorry. But Soph and YouTube, but mind you, you're tied into YouTube now, so you're protected. But there's nothing else matters. So, I mean, even people saying, why are you starting a podcast when you're going to be rubbish at it when you first start? It's like, I don't care what you say because I'm doing what I love. And that is the output I'm looking for right now. I'm looking at getting these first 100 podcasts out the way so that I can be a bit better. And then get to a point where I'm able to objectively say, okay, well, this podcast was better than this one. And I can tell you why, because of this mark and this mark and this mark. And that was worse because of that and that. They're the things I really care about. So if somebody, tries to get me on, I just don't, their opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm curious there because YouTube is something you value. You've outlined that for you, what is important is Soph and your business. However, you've outlined there as well that someone is crossing a boundary and you are able to almost distance yourself from it and go, you know what, I'm strong enough in my sense of self, in my sense of ego, to be okay to not get angry.
Yeah.
How do you think you're able to do that? And are you able to tangibly explain it so those that are listening might be able to actively put that into place? And I know that's a big question and that has a lot of things to cover, but I'm curious if there's anything actionable in there that you're doing, if you're choosing to do, that helps you control that emotion. Because I think everyone would agree anger is visceral.
Yeah.
No one goes, well, people do, they slowly build with anger and then eventually they boil over. But I think a lot of people, anger is
yeah, it's a quick switch. I would say actionable. I mean, the reason why nothing can get to me now is just because I don't care about anything other than my goals. I mean, I said that only Soph can wind me up, but actually if YouTube were to just take down my channel for no reason, I would be angry.
Yeah.
But then again, I'd channel that immediately into, okay, anger doesn't solve anything. I want to fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I think as hard as it is trying to gain a sense of perspective, and if it's, so there's obviously the same as there always is, what do we call it? PBSR. Personal, social...
PBSR, personal business, and personal business, social relations.
Yeah. So there's all those different aspects of it. So personal might be you're angry at an ex. But if they're your ex and you're angry at them, why do you care? Because they're your ex. So leave the situation. You never have to talk to them again. They're your ex. Okay? Next one. Business. If you're angry about something in business, number one, you might be in the wrong business because you can never expect everything to be plain grass fields in business. There's always going to be something that is a bugbear. Like I had a 2.8 million view video taken down the other day. I didn't feel comfortable about that. But I knew that being angry at an app on my phone is insane. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So you can be frustrated by the situation, but having perspective on how you fit in, like at the end of the day, we're all on a rock spinning around a fireball in the middle of a galaxy, in the middle of a universe, in a multiverse. Okay, we are irrelevant. How you feel in that moment, it doesn't matter. And people that are feeling angry right now, they might be like, yeah, well, I feel like I don't matter. And that's one of the reasons why I'm angry. But it's like, well, flip that to your advantage. If you feel like you don't matter, that means nobody cares, which means you're the only person that's stopping you from feeling good. Social. Friends wound you up. That would be social, right?
Yeah.
You had an argument with a friend. You felt like you can't trust them. They betrayed your trust. Maybe they slept with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and that, you've been friends with them since you were in primary school, and now you're in your 40s. You've had that strong relationship. There may even be like the godparent to one of your kids. Look at me using proper adult. Yeah,
so
look at me go. Fair enough, harbour anger, but you've got to remember, whenever you let an emotion eat you up, the only thing that is winning is that emotion. The other person hasn't won. They've still lost a friend in the situation. You've got to remember. You might feel alone because you not only have lost your partner, you've lost your best friend maybe. It's like, okay, but if they were willing to do that, they weren't ever your best friend. And if your partner was willing to do that, they weren't ever fully committed to you. So all you've lost is a bad friend and a bad other half.
So what I'm hearing is perspective.
It's the number one thing. It's so hard, but if you can train yourself day by day, just to have, just think about your position in the world. And sometimes it's brutal. When I was an accountant, I was the bottom rung. So any perspective I had, it doesn't matter what I shared with the big bosses, or so I happened to know one of the partners, which is how I managed to get into the job, which was a really bad idea because you just get in based off knowing people rather than actually being good at the job, which is why I got fired eventually, anyone that's wondering. But any perspectives I had on the business, which is where I think my brain naturally is a good problem solver, aren't valued. But I was going somewhere with this. Perspective, yeah. So my perspective on the business, I knew that I was just a very small cog in that wheel, in that whole machine of everything. So knowing that, you can sort of seek solace in that because, okay, if even if I completely flip out right now, nobody cares. If I stay and do exactly what I'm supposed to, nobody cares. So this is part of the reason why I love being self-employed, because I want to be that big cog and I don't want to have to work through everyone else's social hierarchy rubbish to get there. Just have perspective on the whole thing. If you can't see a logical way to do something, then that's the wrong thing for you to be doing and focusing your energy on. So if that's causing anger, suddenly just don't care about it. because you logically just thought to you, if you want to solve anger with logic, there you go, that's how you do it. It's like you just look at the situation, objectively, where am I in this big cog? Maybe you're a couple of rungs up, but then you realise that there's managers, senior managers, then you've got partner, then you've got senior partner, then, all the way to the top of CEO, then you've got C-suite, you've got, CEO, CFO, you've got COO. It's all rubbish titles anyway, they don't do anything. CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, they don't know anything. They really don't. Like, nothing. I haven't seen a single video for the accountancy firm I worked for that has gone viral. It's like, so technically my qualifications right now are better than that CMO's because they haven't got anything to go viral, which is how you get actual exposure. It winds me up. People hired people based on sheets of paper that meant something 45 years ago. It's a waste of time. Anyway.
So what I'm hearing here is there is almost an anger there. It's almost an injustice.
It's passion.
It's passion?
It's all passion. Because
do passion and anger cross over?
Here's where the line blurs between anger and frustration, I think. I feel very frustrated sometimes that I can't get my exact state of mind across to other people. Because I feel if I could give everyone my sense of perspective on life, I think a lot of people would be like, whoa. Because this whole world, I don't know when I do remember the feeling, I don't know how old I was young, but the whole world opened up to me and I was like, what am I doing? Like, there's all these different career paths, but you can see how that one starts there, and like the whole idea of a path, like you can see where you're going to begin and where you're going to end up if everything goes exactly according to plan, and where the job ends up isn't where I want to be. That might only be I say only, but even if making 100 grand a year is the end goal, and you've worked 40 years to get here, in your 60s and you're making 100 grand a year, it's amazing. But half of that goes on tax, and you've already got a wife and kids and grandkids by that time. So this is assuming you're able to stay, in the same job, in the same career path your whole life? It winds me, have a sense of perspective, people. Be self-employed. It's so much better.
It's the same perspective, so that ability to step back, take a breath, look at all the information in front of you, and then choose how to proceed from there. So,
even if it's not the obvious choice.
How do you know how do you know what the right choice is, though? Because this is where people struggle. So, perspective, if we all had hindsight, the world would be a better place, right? Effectively, people practice their whole lives that idea of stepping back from a decision, removing themselves from the emotions and choosing from there. But ultimately, it's head versus heart as well, because two will lead to very different outcomes. I will always follow my heart. I'm not a great thinker. Whereas you are the opposite. You will always think your way out of problems. So hindsight and perspective are very interesting because people will get there through different techniques. I'll get there through meditation, through stillness, through journaling, whereas you'll get there through productivity and looking at a whole big picture. My brother would do the same. He'd look at the whole big picture and go, well, this is a logical sense, and go from there. I think perspective is so uniquely interesting because everyone's perspective is different. Like I'm living through my life, you're living through your life. I can't see what your eyes see and vice versa. You might think you look one way, I think you look the other way. I think there is a psychologist that suggested if we walked past ourselves on the street, we wouldn't even notice them because we are so wrapped up in our own perspective, we cannot objectively see what other people see. So perspective when it comes to anger is so uniquely diverse because you think of, say, like the political state of the world and some of the things that are happening. Without going into too much information, crossing the migrants coming over on the boats, for me, I'm like, let them in. They're escaping a war zone. That's my perspective. Whereas some people are like, no, we shouldn't let them in because they're coming over and taking our resources. I'm trying to empathize their side of view, but I find it difficult because I don't have their perspective, which I find difficult. But I think because some people struggle, people don't want to see other people's side of view, so it's easier to feel angry than it is to be wrong or accept a new point of view into life. So it's, for some people, anger is an easier emotion than changing their values.
Yeah.
And I know I went off on a tangent, but what I'm saying is perspective is super important because it allows you to objectively look at the whole picture.
Yeah, there's perspective as in the individual's perspective, then there's perspective as in the big picture.
Yeah, exactly.
And seeing the big picture tends to be more objective. It's the same as, I hate to bring it back to the stock market, but if you look at a 5-minute chart and try and make a prediction on where the market's going to go, you're going to have a lot less success than if you look over a 50-year chart.
Agreed.
And see how it's been for the last year. You can see how it's going to trend long term. Doesn't mean day by day it won't go down or might go up, but you just have, with a greater perspective, greater time horizon, you can see a lot more things. And that's how I've always approached life. You just want to be directionally correct. You don't have to make perfect decisions in life, but you've got to be directionally correct in everything you do.
So does anger solve anything?
I genuinely don't think it does.
Explain.
I think if you're feeling angry, it's effectively your own body's response to tell you that a stimulus wasn't good for you. That's the only thing it can mean, effectively. Somebody's done, because then if you're using anger as defense, I would say the real thing that's fueling that isn't the anger, it's the adrenaline that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that maybe we need to do a podcast on adrenaline. That could be interesting because it would tie in, I think, with a lot of emotions.
We'll get Andrew Huberman on and he can run through,
Yeah, mate, I'll send him an email.
Yeah, do.
It's
probably just andrew.huberman@gmail.com.
I wonder how much he charges an hour.
More than we make a year.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I reckon I could get him.
Okay, bet.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Be interesting to find out the price. I've been starting this new thing recently. Sorry, I'll finish the thought.
Yeah,
I'll finish the
you're
thought.
talking about adrenaline.
Yeah, so do I think anger is net good? No, I don't.
Okay.
I think it can lead to irrational, short-term, very feel-good in the moment sort of decisions versus long-term thought out. Well, maybe if I didn't punch this person in the face, then my life would be better 5 years from now.
Do you think men and women process anger differently? And ultimately, I will always preface this. We are two guys talking about this. And I understand that we are not going to be as educated on the female perspective because we are two guys. And I will always happily open into a discussion because I'd like to know.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting... I mean, when I was a woman, I did think about life very... No, I'm joking. You've got to upset the trans community. You've got to. It's good fun.
No, I disagree on that.
Yeah, me too, obviously. It's, let it hang out.
Do men and women
feel anger? Can I get your perspective on this first?
Yes. Do men and women...
It's a really difficult one because we can only understand one half of it. But I suppose looking at it from the eyes of us, from the women that we've known in our lives, is probably how I'm going to try and approach it.
Yeah. I think as men, anger has been told that we have to be cautious with anger because I think as young men you're told that anger is almost bad, but you're not taught it can be harnessed well. Like I think it's Jordan Peterson at the moment that's stating that men should be monsters. There should be something that's somewhat innately not scary, but passionate. That anger passionate coin, I think, is one that probably flips back and forth. So as men, I think we probably process emotions as a whole differently. Anger is a hard one because I think men probably process anger differently because men are not very good at forward thinking. I think there's been studies that men are not very good at forward thinking, whereas women are. So I think women are probably better at processing anger because they can probably think out the consequences of their actions better. Maybe less likely to do something they regret, say something they regret, whereas men are not. I feel like...
Sure it's not the other way around?
I'm sure.
That seems very strange. Because men generally are the logical thinkers and women aren't.
No,
women are more emotional because of the hormone imbalance.
Yeah, but men are better at thinking. Men are not very good at looking at broad pit. I can't think of that. I need to actually find the study, but I heard it recently. Yeah,
we need an iPad. Guys, donate. Super thanks on the video. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah. Anyway, so I think men probably processed emotions differently in the sense that I think they were more likely to act out or act upon emotions in anger.
That's very interesting.
That's my thoughts.
Glad I got yours first.
Are yours different?
Mine were the opposite.
Okay.
I was going to say, from my experience, I think women act a lot more emotionally than I do. But then again, I try and keep an even keel anyway. I'm very slow to anger.
I think men are just more likely to do something they regret in anger.
Yeah, men can get more physical more quickly and do more damage immediately.
Yeah, this is it. Whereas I think women,
well,
as for men, can be nasty.
Of it are,
yeah. And I think that's my perception on it, to be honest.
No, that's really interesting. Going back to that Jordan Peterson thing about you need to be a warrior, I think when he's having the conversation with Joe Rogan, he says much better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
You've got to train your way up to being like, you want to be feared almost in not physically feared as in you're going to hurt people, but feared as in your own area of expertise. Yep. You want to have such an overwhelming background of evidence that you know what you're doing and nobody can argue with you on that.
That's what we said before as well. Confidence is just an overwhelming stack of evidence.
That's it. That's all it is. And when you look at it like that, it's actually achievable. Because you can see the progress on it day by day. I made a video today. Therefore, I am one video better than the person who has made nothing.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Expand that out over 10 years.
Yeah. Little compound gains over time.
That's it.
Yeah, very true. So, anger. Talk to me about expressing versus suppressing.
Expressing anger to the person that you're angry with when you're overwhelmed with rage, I don't think ever yields good results for anybody. Expressing your anger in a measured, calm way, maybe the day later when you can think about things more rationally, you've had more time to gather your thoughts, always yields better results. What's the second half of your question? Suppressing anger adds fuel to the fire when you snap. So I do something that winds Soph up. She gets really angry. I have been suppressing loads of anger for 6 months. I can instantly match her level of anger and outdo it. In what world being angry towards your loved one and trying to cause them active harm in terms of emotional damage, what good is that going to ever do for your relationship, really? You need to express your anger, but hopefully before it gets to the point of anger, and having that perspective from the very start of, hang on, we're on the same team at the end of the day. And I say this to Soph all the time, and I think it actually really helps strengthen our relationship, and I should do it more now, is I occasionally just message her saying, it's so cool just being on the same team as you.
That's awesome.
And at first she didn't know how to respond to that because I hadn't really sent messages like that before, but I hadn't even seen anything that instigated it. It was just my own processing of it. But I might have heard it somewhere. But in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if we're both pulling the same carriage, we're both the horses pulling, like, I want to be on the same team as you and we should both be pulling in the same direction. If we're both pulling in different directions and one of us, that's doomed to fail. Of course it is. So I want to be on the same team. Even if we do wildly different things, I genuinely don't think it matters because at the end of the day, we come back to the middle and both of us can separately have our goals. And the end result is we're just really charging forwards. Just being on the same. So, yeah, suppressing anger, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. But I would say when it comes to expressing your anger, wait until you've calmed down before approaching it. Because how many times has a boss wound you up and you just wanted to knock him out there and then? Or you wanted to just hand in your notice out of anger and upset from the situation. How many people have done that, number one, and regretted it 2 weeks later when they still can't find a job, or a month later when they still can't find a job, and then they get denied for job seekers allowance for whatever reason. versus the person that just waited a day because they had to go in the next morning. Instantly, just that one night off, and maybe you don't sleep very well at night because it's really got to you, but that next day you go in, you can at least approach it without throttling anyone.
So emotions are the compass that we navigate through life with. Would you agree or disagree?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because my emotions aren't a consideration when I make decisions. So the way that I'm navigating my life is based on logic.
Do you think your life would be better if you allowed emotions to help navigate decisions?
No. From now. Previously, yes. I've changed now.
What changed you?
Leaving accountancy. There's so many warning signs, early warning signs of doing this doesn't make me happy, borderline makes me angry that I've got to do this. So when I was in my first studying of accountancy, I was like, I just want to go home and play guitar. How many stories have you heard of when your favourite artist, your favourite celebrity skipped class because they knew what their passion was and they just wanted to follow it, and I just wanted to have that story, I wanted to be that person, but I never did it. I still turned up every single day, and it just wound me up slowly, and I was letting the anger build. And then I was an accountant, and then eventually 3 years later, they fired me. And my reaction was, well, if you think that's best for the business, cool, could I get my stuff and just... Like, I just didn't care. I was like, okay, cool, well, I just get to do what I want to do all the time now.
So you'd build up so much resentment over that time that when the decision was made for you, you're almost so removed from it.
Yeah, I mean, I just wasn't in it. You know, you've got to be careful not to be angry about stuff that you actually never cared about. I think that happens so much.
Do you think the resentment can then lead to complete apathy, complete lack of feeling, complete, oh, I'm so done? You know, because what we're saying there of expression versus suppression, expression when shared in a healthy manner, I think will only bond relationships. Again, if both of you are on the same team and want to work together, expressing emotions, anger, frustrations should only ever lead to positive outcomes or growth. Growth can always be difficult short term and long term, but it should hopefully strengthen relationships. Whereas suppressing, again, I said it earlier, but I will say it again, unspoken expectations lead to premeditated resentments. So if you allow those small chunks day after day to build and build and build, when the time comes, you're going to be so done, so tired, so over it. You're going to be so removed from the situation. You're going to be the love's going to be drawn away from it. And I think that's terrifying. To be in a situation where you eventually get so removed from the situation.
Yeah. I think if you can allow yourself to be apathetic, you probably didn't care enough in the first place. Because I know there's nothing YouTube can do other than taking down my channel and demonetizing all my videos that will make me not want to make YouTube videos. Specifically YouTube. I don't think I'd make videos that I couldn't share with people. Because I like entertaining at the end of the day. I like being that person that can maybe put a smile on one person's face. It's like I like to be that person. So I can't be apathetic towards YouTube. It's because it's the right path for me. But accountancy, I can easily be apathetic about because I don't care. I just don't care.
So you've got to care enough to be angry. And again, it comes back to the values things. Okay, interesting.
And just a final point on the thing about caring. It's like, so many people are angry at things that they just don't care about. They're angry because they've been told they should be angry. Or somebody's like, what's your opinion on this? And you feel like you've got to have a really strong opinion on something. So therefore you say, oh, well, negativity is widely more accepted than positivity. So I'll be negative towards this thing. And then suddenly you've got to defend this position that you don't really care about in the first place. And you get then angry at the fact that you can't defend the anger towards the certain it's, just pick your things that you're going to do in life and just operate within that circle. I wouldn't have this conversation with you and be speaking as confidently as I am if we were talking about snowboarding, because I would be way out of my depth.
Sure.
But I know certain things, and I know perspective on life is one of the things that I think I have a good grasp on. I know YouTube, I definitely understand how to make things work within certain niches of YouTube. Long form is something that I'm definitely struggling with, but that's sort of why we're doing this, so that I can get better at it. But it's, again, that was perspective just then. It's like, I know that I know how to get good watch time on shorts. I don't know how to do it on long form. Therefore, I'm never going to give advice on long form until I've got videos that prove to me that I'm good at long form. I can give advice on shorts because I know I can do shorts. It's picking your areas of competence and just living within that. That doesn't mean that you can't grow as a person. You can still, I want to learn that thing. Okay, we'll go and learn that thing then. But don't hate people in the meantime who are doing that thing if you've never tried. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think it brings me on to what I was going to bring up as our last sort of talking point is the role anger plays in society. Because you mentioned negativity is easier to sell than positivity. And I think we live in, I know we live in an environment where social media is designed to be polarizing. And it's designed to put people into tribes and split people up and only show you content that reaffirms your state of mind, your thoughts, and will share similar thoughts with people that have similar ideals. And I'm curious, the role that anger would play in dividing those types of conversations. For instance, I think of, say, someone like Andrew Tate, someone who is so polarizing. People are either for him or against him. And there's very few people that kind of go, it is what it is. He is who he is. I think a lot of people have their views. And I think anger plays a very big part of how we now interact as humans. And I find it quite sad. And I'm curious if you agree, because we've all been there. We're scrolling on Facebook and we take a look at the comments and it's just hate towards each other because someone disagrees with you. I think that's so sad. We've got to a point in time where hate, rage, anger is used to communicate rather than love.
Yeah. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because I like to put social media in the perspective of, say we get 10,000 views on a video. Imagine we were on a stage in front of 10,000 people. How many of those 10,000 do you reckon? And these 10,000 people, they haven't deliberately come to see us. They're just chosen at random, right? Maybe the first 100 people in the auditorium have been interested in shows like ours before, so have then turned up. That's the video analogy of people that are interested in similar content will then get served it first. The next ones are sort of like a test group to see, okay, how far does this interest reach? And if you were in person, how many of those 10,000 do you think would seriously, if you were on stage, start hurling abuse? If the answer is 0, which it is, you can't get annoyed at a comment. So social media isn't a place, believe it or not, it's not a place for emotion. Which is bonkers, because the whole idea of social media was this is where you're going to build friends. Like originally, it was like
bring people together.
You're going to hang out with your friends. Like if you've got friends from across the world, then I think WhatsApp is a better social media than Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of them combined. Because people you really care about, you have their WhatsApp number. How many of your Facebook friends' numbers do you have?
I think I have about 30 numbers in my phone.
Yeah. So, and you've got millions of Facebook friends.
I don't know, quite a few. I can't remember who said it. It's the young actor that played Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
Oh, yeah.
He said something along the lines of, if you've got a problem with me, say it to my face. If your phone number's not on my phone, you don't know me well enough to have.
I don't care about your opinion, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so true in the sense that we feel like we get attached to things that it's okay to lash out online. It's okay to bash what you identify with and what I identify with. And I think anger will always spark conversations. And I think it's now used as a tool. And I fear the impact that will have throughout life as it plays out.
I think it will make life easier for the few people that can keep their head screwed on. Like, if you think, how hard was it to start a business, 100 years ago? Probably quite difficult, because if you didn't have money in your family, which neither of us grew up particularly wealthy, if you couldn't do it, you couldn't start a business on the internet. You couldn't separate yourself from the abject poverty that you were living in. Some people might not be able to do that now, but now people are so lazy. It's ridiculous. Like, if you look at people's screen time, and on specific apps, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, just scroll at YouTube Shorts, scrolling.
Yeah.
You've removed all your competition if you just don't do that. Even if you go down to 20 minutes a day of just scrolling on social media, and that could be while you're taking a dump. Sorry, that just killed 5% retention. There's been studies on that.
It's also who dumps for 20 minutes.
Oh, we've just lost 10% of our viewers. It's okay, they're already left. Who dumps for 20? I do, for sure. It's the only break I get. I eat while I'm on the lake.
Oh, gross.
Anyway, but even if you just reduce it down to 20 minutes on social media, like, your competition isn't there. So all the anger, all the hate, you miss all of that. So your perspective isn't tainted anyway. If you just make original content that you actually are passionate about the points, a lot like I do, and you're very good at prompting the questions to get me to go, wah! I like it. It's good fun. It gets me amped up. I'm in a good mood now because I've had this, wah! Then you just remove all the competition. So you can just crack on with your life and just build a business. Because, you have 10 goes. But by the way, if your business fails, nobody cared in the first place. If you have 9 failed businesses, then you have one that takes off. It's like, people will only slate you on the one that took off. The first 9, you failed at, so you're just as good as them, if not worse, because you did a thing and you actively failed. Whereas that person who never tried never failed. So technically, they were right 9 times. It's like, yeah, but if you get the one that takes off, then you were better than everybody around you. It's, that's my thoughts on it. I think don't waste your time getting angry. Basically, don't go looking for something to get angry about as well. I feel like people do that.
They go out their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how many people, when it comes around to election year, actively look at the social media content and policies of the opposing parties to what they voted historically? I don't think that happens very often. I think people always look at the policies of their chosen party or leader and are like, yeah, I can defend that position now because I understand that. When they don't understand where the other person's coming from, or what other policy, or the sentiment meant behind certain things.
It'd be interesting to get a government official on just to understand the psychology that goes behind recruiting. We should reach out.
I don't think there's any psychology behind it. I think they're just as dumb as the CMOs.
Maybe. Because
you see their social media content. It's rubbish. Trump is the best social media president / world leader that we've ever had.
For social media.
Do I think that he is the best leader the world has ever had? No. In terms of creating awareness, and everyone knows the more exposure you have to something, the more likely you are to build an affinity with it. So who is best at that game? No wonder Trump won the presidency. And the fact he was against like an old piece of skin. But, it's just crazy to me that people don't understand how the world works at such a high level, and it's just pieces of paper that have got people to where they are. Like, yes, Trump has loads of business experience as well, and Biden made, I think, 10 million before he was president. But a lot of that was inherited, I believe, as well. Not that I knock anyone that's inherited. You can't help where you were born, Maintaining wealth, that takes a skill. That's a skill set all of its own. That's one that all millionaires hit and then get worried about, because most millionaires go, I made $1 million. I better hold on to it. I don't want to lose my $1 million. Whereas people that then go on to make tens and hundreds of millions end up spending it and investing it wisely using percentages. As soon as you start thinking your money in terms of percentages, it's like, cool, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And it doesn't matter about the sum of money. It's irrelevant. You just divvy everything up percentages. Well, it's got to do with anger. I have no idea, but
that's okay.
I like dropping these little nuggets, as you say.
Yeah, little nuggets.
Just if you want to think like the rich, just think in terms of percentages.
Okay.
I think 5% goes on my food each month. I don't want any more than 1/3 going on my rent / mortgage / bills, and then you'll find out that you've got loads of money left over. If you're pushing yourself too much, you've got too much house, or you buy too much food. And then you find that you solve the obesity crisis because people are spending 30% on food each month. It's like, well, if you only spent 10%, you would eat less food and therefore you
could
stop
also
obesity.
argue healthier food is more expensive.
Healthier food is more expensive, but then you just don't eat as much of it.
Interesting. Anyway, we're getting close to wrapping up, so I think we'll just get close to a few last questions for you.
Let's do it.
Well, when was the last time you felt angry? What was it about? And what did you learn from that experience?
I seem to always learn the lessons 3 months later. So this is why I didn't speak to you for 3 months. And then I was like, actually, what's an even cooler idea than me being angry at you about this forever is me being the reason, or just being able to help each other, like just helping each other and raising each other up. At the end of the day, if you have people helping you, you always do better. People who are married make more than double the amount of people that aren't married. People who have kids make even more than the people who are just married. It's if you have people around you in a support network, you do better. So do better. Have that support network. Don't waste your time with grudges. It doesn't benefit you. So
you learn from anger that it's better to work with people, so anger does not serve a purpose.
Yep.
That's your takeaway.
Yep.
Okay.
What would be yours?
Last time I was angry was when I was dealing with a client at work and I had to deliver some bad news. And it's a very difficult conversation because there's naturally the human element and there's the professional element of I have to give this bad news, but I'm apologizing because this is bad news. You don't want to hear this, but the news was not received. And the hardest part was trying to keep a level head, trying to stay as empathetic as possible when this person is losing their patience, losing their temper towards you, calling you names, making absurd judgments about you, and you've got to try and stay level headed. I think that was the last time I felt angry, and the rage was very visceral. It was inside of me. It was very hard to stay grounded. I think what helped me through that is breathing, like some good diaphragmatic breathing, and then also understanding that he is in his world, I'm in mine. I can't understand what's going on in his world and vice versa. But what did I learn? I learned that we always need patience. We always need to take a step back, think, and sometimes not act on the emotions. Because as I've said before, I feel like we are not ruled, but our emotions drive us. They're our compass. They help us navigate life, which is both a good and a bad thing. And if I was to have just acted upon that emotion, that anger, that rage I felt in that moment of this injustice, you're hurling abuse at me and I'm trying to help you, I could have got fired. I could have said something I would have regretted. Could have hurt him. I could have hurt myself. So I learned to just take a step back. That is what I learned.
So we've learned similar lessons.
We have.
Interesting. Because we came at it from two different perspectives. I don't think emotions rule the world, and you do. Yet we still came to the same thing of anger is a waste of time.
I wouldn't say waste of time.
Well, not a waste of time, but anger isn't the way to make progress.
Yeah.
Anger is a feeling that you feel when you've been treated wrong, but it's not the time to try and fix the situation when you're really angry.
Which is very interesting because I think there is similar messages all around the world, phrased in different light. Again, I will always lean towards slightly more holistic approaches, like the quote that jumped out at me at the beginning of the episode. Not that anyone's still here, but holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. For me, that sums up anger as best as possible. And I've got my own unique, weird, wonderful relationship with anger, which I'll continue to digest in therapy. And I hope it won't continue to erode other relationships I have in the future. But we're always working towards better. And ultimately, I'm better than who I was a year ago, 2 years ago. And we take it one step at a time.
Nice.
And then in a year, I'll be the most angry person you've ever met because I've learned to express my anger. But that is all the questions I have for you, Will. Do you have any for me? Or or shall we call it a day?
Thank you very much for watching. I've been Will. This has been Connor. This has been our episode on anger and episode 4, although it won't be the 4th one going out. It's likely to be the 3rd one as we're trying to do our emotion series. And then we've got an episode called Growth that'll be coming out, but we said episode 2 in that, but we also called ourselves Ironed Out as well, even though we weren't even called Beneath the Noise at that point. But if you have enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. Also check out DistroKid down below for 7% off your first year if you want to get all your music and all your podcasts on Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere else as well. Connor, do you have any closing thoughts?
Thank you for watching. We'll take a breath, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
I love the handshake at the end every time.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good.